The 2022 Audi S3 has finally arrived in Australia. It's been a long time between drinks too, because the previous generation, or the third generation car, was actually discontinued back in 2020 at the end of, meaning it's been ages since we've had an Audi S3 in Australia. However, it's now here. And looking at it, it sort of looks the same as before. It's definitely got the same engine as before, and I'm pretty sure it's got the same platform underneath. However, having driven it, there is so much to like about it and plenty new things too. So let's waste no more time and get stuck in and go for a drive. As a quick lay of the land, the 2022 Audi S3 is offered in Australia as a Sportback and a Sedan from launch. The Sportback starts from $70,700 and the Sedan $73,200, with both prices being before registration costs and stamp duty. On the road, expect to pay closer to $80,000 with some optional extras. If you're wondering whether these fancy colours cost more, well they don't, as metallic paints, bright and all, are a free decision to make on the Audi S3. Under the bonnet lies a familiar 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder, but the Audi S3 has another party trick. It uses a revised version of the brand's Hobart all-wheel drive system that can boast around 50% of power to the back axle, which is new for 2022. Now it may look the same, but if you look up close, there are some new elements going on with the S3. First is that large single frame grille. It's bigger than it was before, and on S models in particular, you get the choice of glossy black or glossy chrome accents, depending on the options you pick. All cars now get matrix LED headlights as standard. They're absolutely fantastic. But what's cool about this set is this little 16 LED array here animates when you unlock and lock the car, which is quite cool. These are the standard wheels available, 19-inch, silver with a brushed look. You can get a better set for $300 more, but that's up to you. And lastly, as you can see, this car is a Sportback. If you want your S3 as a sedan, it costs $2.5 grand more. But personally, I don't mind the hatch. I think it's quite versatile. Inside, it's not hard to see what's new, because the whole cabin is. It's a very driver-focused layout, which I personally quite like. In this driver's seat, you've got these high-mounted air vents, which are a bit unique, Audi's fantastic digital gauge cluster, and a circular wheel, which I'm a huge fan of. Older Audis used to have a flat-bottom wheel that felt a bit ugly in your hands. This one is thin-rimmed, quite large, and really encouraging and fun to use. The infotainment in this car is also top-notch. Audi's latest system with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, digital radio, and all of that jazz. However, it is a touchscreen affair only and has lost the rotary dial it used to have. Bit of a shame, but hey, no point crying over spilt milk. What has happened is it's freed up all this center console to give you a really luxurious and minimal look. It does feel expensive and it does feel high-end, which matters in a performance car that doubles as a luxury car. Now, you don't just pay big bucks for an Audi because of a Bang & Olufsen stereo and luxury materials, you also pay for some clever thinking. Take this little jog dial here, it's a fantastic thing. It controls the infotainment system and you can skip tracks, mute it, or use your finger like this and roll around on it to change the volume. It's really intuitive, and you know what? Every car could have this, but this is why you pay more for an Audi, because there's plenty of clever tech and clever thought. Now, despite being a small hatch, there's actually a decent amount of room in the back of this car. As you can see, my knees are well clear of the seat back. Got a fair amount of footroom and a decent amount of headroom too. Other nice touches include a pair of air vents for kids, a 12-volt, sadly no USBs, and a pair of cup holders as well. Overall, it is a nice place to be. However, there are a couple of small things. The roofline is a bit small and the headlining is a bit dark, so you can feel a bit claustrophobic, and these seats do get in the way of forward visibility. But other than that, it's good stuff back here. In terms of comfort, the rear seat bench is actually quite conducive to long trips. There's this nice bolstering here that helps keep your back in check. The seat base itself is nice and deep to keep your thighs supported, and I could see myself sitting here on a longer than usual road trip quite easily. As a hatchback, or Sportback as Audi puts it, it's worth talking about boot space. There's 325 litres in here, which is a little bit less than the outgoing car because of the smaller roof. However, it's plenty big enough. Not the biggest in class, but you'll get a stroller in there, you'll get a week's worth of groceries, and it's good enough for the day-to-day. So this is the thing you've been wanting to hear most, what's this car like to drive? However, before we get stuck in, I'll caveat the fact that we're in Hobart and the roads are smooth, fast and flowing, so I can't comment too much on the ride quality. But what is good is this powertrain. The Audi S3 now gets the full fat European tune, 228 kilowatt, 400 Newton meter, and it's a really great smooth engine. You put your foot down, it responds quickly, it's potent. Definitely got a bit more response than the old car. The old car had an Australian tune which had a bit less power, so if you're coming from a Golf R or a previous S3, you'll appreciate the extra power on board. Something else fantastic about this car is the breadth of ability from the suspension. Now, I mentioned before the roads are smooth, but there has been some bumpy roads. If you leave this car in automatic, what it will do is choose your own adventure. It will pick the damping from either sport, regular or comfort, depending on the input, which means it's really a chameleon. It blends in on the road, it feels comfortable. When you start to load it up with acceleration and steering, it gets a bit stiff, and it feels intuitive to drive. Previously in these sorts of cars, I'd often set them up myself in individual mode, put it in sport mode, put the dampers in soft and go from there. But in automatic mode, this car does it for you. And that's a big thing where the car's got endless configuration. The only real downside I have with this cabin is it is a little bit noisy inside. There's a bit of tyre roar and you hear the suspension sort of fidgeting around on the bigger bumps. But at the end of the day, it is a performance car with really grippy tyres, so you are going to get some vibration and noise through the cabin. Another reason you pay for an Audi, which is something you notice behind the wheel, is the configuration of the interior and the switches and panels. It's really easy to use this car when you're driving. The air conditioning control has tactile buttons, which means you can learn them, feel them out, and not take your eyes off the road when you're using them. The digital gauge cluster too is fantastic. It has 3 panes that you can configure endlessly. So in my case, I like seeing the road ahead, what's playing on Apple CarPlay, and how much fuel I've got left. You can do all of that with the Audi Virtual Cockpit, which makes driving more comfortable, which in itself is luxurious. Overall, the S3 is a great package. It's more comfortable where it needs to be, it's faster where it needs to be, and it's just better overall. It's more livable, technology is better, the interior is better, I much prefer it. To be honest, at the price it's at, around the 70 grand mark, it is fantastic buying. Because if you think about this, a fully optioned Golf GTI is a bit over 60 grand. Is this car worth 10 more? I absolutely reckon it is. Now, as this is a launch review, we haven't spent a heap of time with the car, but first impressions count, and the Audi S3 has made a bloody good one. The engine is fantastic, you'll notice the extra power in it, the cabin is great, you can put your kids in the back, and if you buy a Sportback, you can even put your dog in the back too. How's that for versatile performance? Now, we're all super keen for this car and we want to conduct some more thorough testing, so we'll get one through the Drive garage in the meantime. But as first impressions count, thumbs up from me.